A pregnant wife went to visit her friend in her new apartment and will never forget what happened when the elevator stopped on the 8th floor. The November heat in Atlanta was the kind that wrapped around you like a damp, heavy blanket, thick and unrelenting, pressing against every pore until breathing felt like an effort. The sun glared mercilessly off the high-rise windows of Sarah's brand-new condominium on the 14th floor of a sleek, modern tower in the heart of Midtown, turning the entire living room into a shimmering greenhouse that seemed to trap every ray and throw it back tenfold. The air carried layered scents, the greasy, salty aroma of fried chicken wafting up from the food truck permanently parked below on Peachtree Street, the acrid bite of exhaust from the endless river of traffic, the sweet, almost cloying perfume of peach cobbler drifting out of someone's open window a few floors down, and beneath it all, that sticky, unmistakable southern humidity that made clothes cling and skin glisten. Jessica paused in the doorway of the apartment, one hand braced against the frame, the other resting atop the massive swell of her 8-month pregnant belly. She wiped a fresh sheen of sweat from the back of her neck with the heel of her hand, feeling the droplets roll slow and deliberate down her spine, tracing the curve of her back until they pooled uncomfortably at the waistband of the loose, light blue cotton sundress she'd chosen because it was one of the only things left that still fit. 8 months pregnant, and she barely recognized the body she now inhabited. The belly round and heavy as an overripe watermelon straining against the fabric, breasts swollen and aching with every breath, lower back curved permanently backward in a painful arch to counterbalance the impossible weight, ankles so swollen that the thin straps of her worn leather flip-flops had left deep, angry red indentations that throbbed with every heartbeat. Every breath felt shallow, every step a conscious, deliberate negotiation with gravity. "Yo, that sectional is not going to fit right there," Sarah laughed, bright and unbothered, hands planted firmly on her slim hips, messy curly bun half undone and frizzing in the humidity, tiny beads of sweat shining like diamonds on her rich brown forehead as she watched the two burly movers, shirts plastered transparently to their broad chests, dark patches spreading beneath their arms, try to wedge the enormous charcoal grey 3-seater sofa between the freshly painted eggshell wall and the towering light oak bookshelf that still reeked sharply of varnish and new beginnings. "It'll fit, ma'am. Just gotta twist it a little and give it some of that good old southern persuasion," the older mover grunted, voice gravelly and thick from decades of dipping Copenhagen, sweat dripping in steady rivulets off his stubbled chin to splatter onto the cool, gleaming hardwood floor that reflected the intense late afternoon light like a mirror. Jessica managed a tired half-smile from the white plastic patio chair she had commandeered the moment she arrived, legs spread as wide as the chair allowed to make room for the belly that dominated her frame, both hands resting heavily on her knees while the baby kicked in a steady, insistent rhythm, left, right, left, like it was two-stepping inside her to some private country song only it could hear. She hadn't left the house for more than an hour at a time in weeks, maybe months now that she really thought about it. This pregnancy had been brutal in ways no one had fully warned her about. Blood pressure that spiked without warning, swelling that turned her fingers into plump sausages that barely bent, dizzy spells that came on suddenly and left her gripping furniture for balance, morning sickness that never stayed confined to mornings and hit hardest at the mere smell of coffee brewing, and Brandon, always Brandon with that soft, worried Georgia drawl. "Just rest, baby. Stay off your feet. I got May." Everything handled, I promise. But when Sarah had called 2 days ago, practically screaming with joy about finally closing on her dream condo in Midtown, balcony with an unobstructed view of Piedmont Park, open concept kitchen with quartz countertops, porcelain tile floors that stayed cool even in this heat, the works, something deep in Jessica's chest had sparked like a struck match. She hadn't hesitated. "You have to come see it, Jess. It's gorgeous. I'm in love." Sarah's voice had crackled through the phone, pure, uncontainable excitement, the kind that made you forget swollen feet and acid reflux and the fact that tying your shoes now required strategy and a small prayer. So here she was, planted in the middle of the sweet, chaotic symphony of moving day. Cardboard boxes stacked precariously like Jenga towers, waiting for a careless breath, crumpled newspapers scattered across every surface like confetti after a storm, The greasy, comforting smell of pepperoni pizza drifting from the Domino's box Sarah had ordered because movers work harder on full stomachs. Laughter bouncing off bare walls, still waiting for artwork and memories. Jessica helped where her body allowed, holding lightweight boxes steady while Sarah unpacked, weighing in thoughtfully on furniture placement, running her fingers across fabric swatches to pick curtain colors, while Sarah carefully, reverently unpacked brand new dishes from their foam cocoons, like they were fine china inherited from a grandmother. "Remember when we shared that tiny little apartment off Moreland Avenue junior year?" Sarah asked, slicing open another box of drinking glasses with a bright orange box cutter, the loud rip of cardboard echoing sharply in the brief pocket of quiet between the movers' grunts. "Kitchen the size of a closet? Bathroom so small we had to turn sideways just to brush our teeth. And somehow we still crammed 3 girls and all our drama in there," Jessica finished, laughing until her belly shook, and the baby responded with an enthusiastic kick that felt like a high five from the inside. "And we thought we were living the absolute dream back then," Sarah sighed, pausing to gaze out the massive floor-to-ceiling window that framed the view like a postcard. The sight really did steal your breath away. Lush green treetops of Piedmont Park swaying lazily in the hot breeze, the jagged Atlanta skyline shimmering in the heat haze, a perfect slice of cloudless blue sky stretching endlessly overhead. "Now look at us. You married to Brandon, about to be a mama any day now, and me over here with my very own place in the sky." There was a fleeting shadow of sadness beneath her wide smile, the kind she tried to hide, but Jessica caught it. The same ache Sarah had carried for years, watching friends pair off while she focused on career, on herself, on waiting for the right one. She covered it quickly with her usual radiant grin. "But it's all good. Everything in God's perfect timing, right?" "God's timing," Jessica echoed softly, rubbing slow circles over the taut skin of her belly, tracing the faint blue veins that had appeared like rivers on a map, feeling the impossible, miraculous weight that was both burden and sacred gift. The baby kicked hard against her ribs then, a sharp jab that made her let out a small, involuntary oof. But she smiled anyway, wide and genuine. Even with the constant heartburn that felt like fire in her throat, the lower back pain that never fully eased, the pee every 20 minutes routine that had her mapping every public restroom in the city, this was real. She was about to become a mother. And Brandon, despite coming home late most nights now, despite text messages he answered hours later with vague excuses, despite mandatory weekend work trips that seemed to multiply, still seemed excited too. He kissed her belly every single night without fail, pressed his lips gently to the stretched skin, and whispered in that low, reverent voice, "Daddy's right here, little man. I can't wait to meet you." She clung to those moments with everything she had, replayed them like a lifeline whenever doubt crept in. Hours slipped by in a blur of loud laughter, opened boxes, furniture being shoved and rearranged a dozen times, the apartment slowly filling with the mingled scents of hot pizza, fresh paint, and new beginnings. When the sun finally began its slow descent, painting everything in the room in strokes of peach and gold through the bare windows, Jessica felt exhaustion hit her like a Mack truck barreling down I-75. "Girl, I think I got to head out," she said, pushing herself up slowly, laboriously from the plastic chair, both hands supporting her lower back as every vertebra screamed in protest, the baby shifting its weight as if offended by the movement. "Already? The pizza literally just got here. Extra cheese, your favorite, I made sure," Sarah protested, wiping her hands on a paper towel already stained with grease. "Next time, I swear, I'm wiped out. Gotta get home. Put these elephant legs up on about 6 pillows and sleep for 12 straight hours if this little linebacker will let me." Sarah crossed the room carefully, stepping over crumpled newspaper and scattered styrofoam peanuts, and helped Jessica stand, her hands gentle and supportive under Jessica's arms, mindful of the belly that made every movement feel precarious. "Thank you for coming. Seriously, this was 1,000 times better with you here. I needed my best friend today." "Are you kidding? I loved every single second. Your place is absolutely stunning, Sarah. You worked so hard for this. You deserve it all and then some." They hugged hard, the kind of hug that carried 15 years of history. Late-night talks until dawn, tears soaked into each other's shoulders, secrets locked tight between them like treasure. Jessica shuffled down the bright, quiet 14th floor hallway, her flip-flops slapping softly against the shiny new floor, feet dragging a little because every step felt like wading through molasses. The whole building smelled proudly of fresh paint and new construction, that crisp, optimistic scent of a place that hadn't yet been lived in, hadn't yet absorbed heartbreak or joy. She pressed the elevator button with a puffy, swollen finger, shifted her heavy purse higher on her aching shoulder, felt another trickle of sweat slide between her breasts and soak into the cup of her bra. The digital display counted down, slowly, maddeningly. 10, 9, 8. Ding. The doors slid open with a soft, mechanical whoosh, and in that exact, terrible second, Jessica's entire world shattered into a million jagged pieces that would never fit back together the same way. You know those moments when you think it's just a regular day? Hot and ordinary, helping your best friend move into her dream condo, laughing about college memories, feeling the baby dance inside you like it hasn't a care in the world, and then, without any warning at all, the floor drops out from under you and you're in free fall? Sometimes life doesn't send a memo. It doesn't give you a courtesy call. It just hits you with the force of a freight train. And what Jessica was about to see inside that elevator wasn't something any heart, especially not an 8-month pregnant heart swollen with hormones, love, hope, and blind trust, should ever have to witness. The doors parted slowly, agonizingly, like the world itself had switched to slow motion. And there he was, Brandon, her husband of 3 years. The man she'd married on a windy afternoon on Tybee Island, with sand between her toes and tears in her eyes. The man she shared a bed with, bills with, grocery lists with, an entire future with, stepping casually into the elevator as if he belonged there. But he wasn't alone. He had his arm wrapped possessively around a woman's waist, fingers laced together with an intimacy that sliced straight through Jessica's chest like a hot blade. Laughing that low, private laugh she knew better than her own heartbeat, the one he gave when he was truly relaxed, truly happy, when he didn't have to pretend or perform. The woman was pretty in that effortless way some women are, straight honey blonde hair to her shoulders, glossy and perfect even in the humidity. White silk blouse fitted just right to show off a slim figure, dark designer jeans that looked tailored, expensive floral perfume that flooded the small elevator cab like a weapon. They stepped in still whispering, still wrapped up in each other like it was the most natural thing in the world, like they'd done it 100 times before. Jessica felt her stomach flip violently, a wave of nausea rising fast and bitter in her throat. Her heart slammed against her ribcage so hard, she thought she might collapse right there against the cool metal wall, one hand flying instinctively to cradle her belly as if she could somehow shield the innocent life inside from the pain already consuming her. The baby kicked hard, sharp, almost painful, as if it too had felt the lightning bolt of betrayal that ripped through its mother's body. Brandon hadn't seen her yet. He was looking down at the woman, grinning that goofy, lopsided grin that used to be hers and hers alone, saying something low that she couldn't quite catch over the sudden roaring in her ears. "Relax, baby. I grabbed those Sour Patch Kids you like. They're in my backpack." Baby, he called her baby. The same tender word he murmured to Jessica every night when he kissed her forehead and pulled her close. That was the moment Brandon glanced up, his eyes locked on hers across the small space. The smile froze on his face, then died completely. Color drained from his cheeks so fast it was like someone had pulled a plug. The hand holding the woman's went stiff, fingers slowly, guiltily uncurling one by one. For 3 endless seconds, 3 hours, 3 days, 3 lifetimes. No one moved. No one breathed. The elevator doors began to close behind Jessica, then bumped gently against her unmoving body and reopened. Jessica stood pinned against the elevator wall, right hand still cradling her belly like armor, breath caught high in her throat, eyes wide and fixed on him. She couldn't look away, couldn't process, couldn't believe this was real life and not some cruel nightmare she would wake up from any second. The woman beside Brandon frowned, sensing the sudden shift in the air. She glanced up at him, then followed his frozen gaze to Jessica, confusion flickering across her perfectly made-up face. The elevator began its descent, smooth and quiet, indifferent to the catastrophe unfolding inside. 8, 7, 6. The silence was suffocating, thick enough to choke on, heavy enough to crush bones. Brandon opened his mouth. No sound came out. He dropped the woman's hand fast, clumsy, like a child caught with his hand in the cookie jar. The woman noticed the abrupt withdrawal, turned fully now, visibly uneasy, her manicured hand hovering in mid-air. "What's wrong?" she asked, voice low but sharp with rising alarm. He didn't answer, just stared at Jessica, panic screaming from his wide, bloodshot eyes, like a trapped animal realizing the cage door had slammed shut. Jessica finally sucked in a ragged, trembling breath that sounded more like a sob, her whole body shaking, pain tearing her chest apart from the inside out. Both hands clutched her belly now as if she could physically protect her child from the poison already spreading through her veins. 5, 4. The woman looked again, really looked this time. Her gaze traveled slowly, deliberately down to the massive, unmistakable belly stretching Jessica's dress, then to the simple gold wedding band glinting on Jessica's swollen ring finger, then up to the tears already welling and spilling over in Jessica's red-rimmed eyes. And in that moment, she understood. "Brandon," her voice came out small, scared, trembling. "Who is she?" He swallowed hard, the sound loud and grotesque in the deadly quiet. His voice cracked and died in his throat. "Who is this woman?" the mistress demanded again, louder now, stepping away from him as if he'd suddenly become radioactive. The elevator reached the lobby with a gentle, mocking jolt. Ding. The doors opened onto the bright, blissfully air-conditioned lobby, the young concierge glancing up curiously from behind the polished marble desk. Jessica lurched forward on legs that felt like jelly, gripping the cool metal handrail for balance. She had to get out, had to breathe air that didn't smell like another woman's cloying floral perfume, had to escape before she shattered completely in front of strangers. Brandon reached for her arm, cold fingers brushing her hot skin. "Jessica, wait!" She jerked away hard, nearly losing her balance, whirling on him with tears streaming in rivers down her flushed cheeks. "Don't you touch me!" Her voice came out raw, lethal, full of a pain and fury he had never heard from her before in all their years together. The other woman stood frozen in the elevator doorway, mouth open in shock, watching the scene unfold like a nightmare she couldn't wake from. She's your wife." Her voice shook with shock and rising fury as the truth sank in. "And 8 months pregnant." Brandon said nothing, because there was nothing he could say that wouldn't damn him forever. Jessica stumbled through the expansive lobby, legs heavy as concrete, vision blurred by unstoppable tears that kept coming, no matter how hard she tried to blink them away. The concierge half rose from his chair, concern creasing his face as he started to ask if she was okay. But she didn't hear him, didn't see anything except the exit. She shoved through the heavy glass doors and out onto the wide sidewalk. The Atlanta heat slapped her like a physical wall, the late afternoon sun still blazing down mercilessly. Traffic roared past on Peachtree, horns blaring impatiently, people rushing by in sunglasses and summer dresses, electric scooters whirring, everything distant and muffled and underwater. She stopped dead on the sidewalk, cradling her belly with both arms wrapped protectively around it, trying to breathe, trying not to collapse in front of the entire city. And then the tears came for real, hot, huge, soaking the neckline of her dress, dripping onto the scorching pavement in tiny dark spots that evaporated almost instantly. Jessica sank slowly, carefully onto the curb, her purse dumped unceremoniously beside her, hands shaking violently as she tried to open the Uber app, fat swollen fingers hitting wrong buttons again and again, the screen blurring behind endless tears. Behind her, the building doors burst open with force. Fast, frantic footsteps on concrete. "Jessica, Jessica, please wait." His voice, desperate, shattered, completely unrecognizable as the calm, confident man she'd married. She didn't turn around, didn't want to see his face, didn't want him to exist in her world right now. He dropped to his knees in front of her on the hot pavement, panting, face flushed red, hands resting helplessly on his thighs. "Let me explain." "Explain what?" Her voice cracked, but burned with pure, righteous rage. "I saw you holding her hand, fingers locked like y'all were love-struck teenagers calling her baby. It wasn't what you think. Wasn't." Jessica finally looked up at him, and whatever Brandon saw in her eyes made him physically flinch as if she'd slapped him across the face. Those were eyes that had once looked at him with love, desire, absolute trust, now utterly destroyed, hollowed out. "Then tell me what it was. Tell me right now, Brandon." He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out, because there was no version of this story that saved him. "I was going to tell you," he started weakly, voice barely above a whisper. "Were you? When, exactly? After the baby was born? After I caught you kissing her in front of my face, or never? I was ending it today, I swear to God, Jess." She let out a bitter, humorless laugh that hurt her own soul, sharp and jagged. "Ending it today? Right. That's why you were walking into that elevator wrapped around her like vines, grinning ear to ear, buying her candy like you're the most devoted man on earth." Brandon raked both hands through his hair, frantic now, eyes wet and shining. "It was a mistake. A huge, stupid mistake. But I love you, Jess. I love you and our son." "You don't love anybody, Brandon. You're just scared of losing your perfect little family image. Scared of losing the dumb, trusting wife who believed every single lie you fed her." She hauled herself up slowly, painfully from the curb, one hand braced under her heavy belly, the other against the lamppost for support. Her Uber was pulling up, a silver Camry with the little glowing sign in the window. "I'm going home, and you don't touch me. Ever again. You hear me?" "Jess, I said don't touch me." Her scream cut through the street noise like a blade. Heads turned. People stopped walking mid-stride. A woman with a stroller stared openly. The Uber rolled to a stop at the curb. Jessica yanked the back door open with trembling fingers and slid carefully inside, slamming and locking it behind her. Brandon slapped the window hard with his open palm. "Jessica, please, open up. We gotta talk, and I'm begging you." She stared straight ahead at the driver, voice steady despite the tears still pouring. "Just drive, please. Anywhere but here." The car pulled smoothly away from the curb, leaving Brandon kneeling in the road, alone, wrecked, watching the taillights disappear around the corner into traffic. Inside the Uber, the AC blasted cold on Jessica's flushed, tear-soaked face, a physical relief that didn't touch the inferno raging inside her chest. She tried slow, deep breaths, but the air wouldn't come fully. It caught on sobs she was fighting to keep quiet. The driver, older black gentleman with a neat grey beard and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, glanced at her repeatedly in the rearview mirror, concern etched deep into the lines of his face. "You all right back there, sweetheart? Need me to stop somewhere? Drugstore, hospital, police station?" She just shook her head numbly, wiping tears with the back of her swollen hand, trying not to sob out loud in front of this kind stranger. He didn't push further. Just reached over and turned up the radio softly, an old Otis Redding ballad about love and pain, and sitting on the dock of the bay, cruelly fitting in its melancholy. Jessica leaned her head against the cool window and closed her eyes, but the images looped mercilessly behind her eyelids. Brandon stepping into the elevator with that private smile, not meant for her. His fingers laced so comfortably with another woman's. That smile aimed at someone else. His voice soft and intimate. "Relax, baby." How many times had he said that exact phrase to her in bed, arms wrapped around her from behind, lips against her ear? How many times had he lied straight to her face while she smiled and believed him? How long had this been going on right under her nose while she waddled around the house alone, swollen and trusting? She rubbed her belly in slow, soothing circles, feeling the baby shift restlessly as if it sensed her turmoil. "I'm sorry," she whispered, voice breaking so low the driver couldn't hear over the music. "I'm so sorry, little one. You didn't deserve to come into this mess. Mama's gonna protect you. I swear on everything." The Uber wound its way through familiar Atlanta streets, past neighborhoods glowing orange in the fading sunset, folks heading home with grocery bags swinging, kids playing basketball on cracked driveways, couples holding hands on front porches, normal life happening all around. while inside the car Jessica's entire world lay in shards too small to ever glue back together. She got home after full dark had fallen. Their Buckhead apartment was cold, quiet, empty. Too empty. She dropped her purse with a heavy thud on the hardwood entryway, double-locked the door as if that flimsy bolt could keep the nightmare out. Then she crumbled. Didn't even make it to the couch. Collapsed right there on the living room floor, back pressed hard against the wall, trying to hug her knees. But the belly wouldn't let her fold that way anymore. The crying came hard, violent, chest-heaving sobs that stole her breath entirely, made her whole body shake uncontrollably. The baby kicked wildly, as if feeling every wail and trying to comfort her from the inside. "Why?" she sobbed between gasps that sounded more like screams. "Why did he do this to me? Why now? Why like this? Why wasn't I enough?" She pounded the floor once with her fist, frustrated, devastated nails scraping hardwood, leaving tiny crescent marks. How many times had she believed him without question? How many times had she called herself paranoid, hormonal, crazy for even wondering? "Baby, it was just a late meeting. I'm sorry." "Sweetheart, my phone died at the office." "Honey, I'm exhausted. Let me sleep, okay?" And she'd swallowed every lie whole, smiled, kissed him goodnight, and gone to sleep believing she was safe. It took nearly an hour to drag herself up from the floor, legs numb and tingling, face swollen almost beyond recognition. She shuffled to the bedroom like a ghost, peeled off the sweaty sundress that now felt tainted, stood under a scalding shower that did nothing to wash away the pain. Water mixed with tears, ran in rivers down her belly, over silver stretch marks, down the drain with her trust. She threw on an old t-shirt of Brandon's she found in the drawer, then ripped it off again in a surge of rage and hurled it across the room like it burned her. Curled up in bed in something else, soft and unfamiliar, stared at the blank ceiling while her mind replayed the elevator scene on an endless, cruel loop. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. "Brandon." "Jess, please answer. I need to talk to you." She blocked the number with shaking fingers. Another buzz, different number. "It's me, don't block me, we have to fix this, I'm so sorry." Blocked again. Then the house phone rang, shrill and insistent. "Sarah." Jessica answered but couldn't speak past the lump in her throat. "Jess, you there, baby?" "Yeah," she finally croaked, the single word scraping her raw throat. "What happened? Brandon just showed up at my door banging like a madman saying you caught him with another woman in the elevator. Is it true? Tell me it's not true." Jessica closed her eyes. Fresh tears spilled immediately. "Yeah, it's true." A sharp, vicious curse from Sarah that would have made their mamas clutch pearls. "That son of a bitch, that absolute bastard. Sarah, I need a favor, a big one. Anything, name it. Ask your concierge if Brandon's ever been to your building before, like multiple times." Long, heavy pause on the line. "You think it wasn't the first time? I need to know, please." "Okay, I'm marching down there right now. I'll call you back in 10. 2 hours later, 2 agonizing hours of staring at the wall, the phone rang again. Jessica snatched it up with trembling hands. "And?" Sarah exhaled hard, the sound full of rage and pity. "Jess, the concierge confirmed everything." Her heart sank like concrete dropped into the Chattahoochee River. "Confirmed what exactly?" "That he recognized Brandon instantly. Said he'd been there multiple times. Last week, the week before, the week before that. For months, Jess. Months." Silence stretched between them, deep and cutting. Said Brandon would show up in the afternoon, stay 2 to 3 hours, leave before evening traffic. Always with the same woman. The blonde one. Jessica couldn't hold it together anymore. The crying came again, but deeper now, soul deep. The kind that rearranges your insides. Because now she knew without a shadow of doubt. It wasn't a fling. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a one-time slip he regretted. It was routine. It was habit. It was deliberate choice again and again and again. The betrayal had roots, long, deep, ugly roots that had been growing while she carried his child. Sarah kept talking, trying to comfort, cursing Brandon creatively, promising vengeance and wine and whatever Jessica needed. But Jessica didn't hear most of it. She hung up eventually, curled on her side in the dark, arms wrapped protectively around her belly. "It's going to be okay," she whispered to her son, voice shattered into 1,000 pieces. "I promise, we're going to be okay." But right then, alone in the dark, she had no earthly idea how. The next morning, Jessica woke aching everywhere. Head, heart, back, feet, eyes nearly swollen shut from crying, skull pounding like the worst hangover of her life. She glanced at Brandon's empty side of the bed. He hadn't come home, or maybe she hadn't let him. She dragged herself to the kitchen, made chamomile tea she didn't drink, sat staring at the steaming mug as if it held answers. The intercom buzzed harshly. She shuffled over, already knowing. "Hello? Jess, it's me. Please let me up. Please let me explain. I'm begging you." Brandon's voice, rough, exhausted, pleading, nothing like the confident man she'd fallen for. "No. Jess, please." "I said no." She hung up. He kept buzzing. Over and over and over until her nerves were raw. Finally, bone-tired and empty, she buzzed him in just to make the noise stop. 2 minutes later, he stood in the doorway looking like hell itself. Same clothes from yesterday, wrinkled and sad. Eyes bloodshot and puffy. Unshaven shadow across his jaw. Smelled like despair and cheap motel soap. "Can I come in?" She stepped aside without a word, arms crossed protectively over her belly. Brandon walked to the middle of the living room, hands hanging useless at his sides, shoulders slumped. "Jess, I messed up. I know I messed up bad. But it wasn't what you think, wasn't?" She crossed her arms tighter. "Then tell me what it was, Brandon. Tell me what I saw with my own 2 eyes." He swallowed hard, Adam's apple bobbing. I met her a few months ago. At work. We started talking, and I don't know how it happened, but it did. It just happened. Months," Jessica repeated, voice trembling with fresh rage. "Months, Brandon. While I was here pregnant, sick as a dog, handling everything alone, you were with her, touching her, calling her baby. It wasn't like, then what was it like?" The scream tore out of her so deep it scared even her, echoing off the walls. Brandon physically stepped back, hands up in surrender. "I was going to end it. I swear to you. You were ending it the day you walked into that elevator wrapped around her, calling her baby, buying her damn candy." He had no answer, because there was none that wasn't a lie. "You know what the concierge told Sarah?" Jessica continued, voice dropping colder now, sharp as broken glass. "That you'd been there dozens of times. Dozens, Brandon. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. Every single day you woke up and chose her over me and your son. I chose you too. I'm here, aren't I? I'm standing here fighting for us. Because I caught you. If I hadn't walked into that elevator yesterday, you'd still be lying, still cheating, still making a complete fool of me while I sat home growing your child." Brandon dropped to his knees right there on the living room hardwood, sobbing like a child. "I love you, Jess. I love you. I don't want to lose you, don't want to lose my son." She looked down at the man she'd loved with every cell in her body, the man she'd chosen, trusted, built a life with, and felt nothing but cold, hollow emptiness. "You already lost us," she said, voice steady and final. "The day you decided to hold her hand, the day you decided to lie to my face, the day you decided I wasn't enough." He kept crying, head bowed, shoulders shaking, but she turned away, walked to the window and stared out at the city that suddenly felt foreign. "Pack your stuff and get out. Jess, get out." He stumbled up eventually, went to the bedroom, shoved clothes into a duffel bag with shaking hands, came back out sniffling, stopped in front of her one last time, eyes red and pleading. "I'll change. I swear on everything. I'll be the man you deserve. Just give me a chance." Too late. He walked out slowly, closing the door softly behind him as if slamming it would make the finality worse. And Jessica was alone, truly, completely alone for the first time in years. She sank onto the couch, rubbed her belly in slow circles, took a shaky breath that still hurt. "We're gonna be okay," she whispered to her son. "We're gonna be okay." But she didn't believe it yet. That afternoon, after hours of staring into space, Jessica made a decision that felt like taking her life back into her own hands. She wasn't going to drown alone in silence. She wasn't going to let Brandon walk away unscathed while she carried all the pain. She opened her phone with purpose, searched, Family Law Attorney Atlanta Best Divorce Custody. Dozens of names popped up. One caught her eye immediately. James Carter, Esky. Family Law, High Asset Divorce, Custody. I understand betrayal because I've lived it. She clicked the website. Read his bio slowly, tears blurring the screen. I understand betrayal because I've lived it. That's why I fight. For you, for your peace, for your fresh start. Something in the words rang like a bell inside her shattered chest. Jessica scheduled a consultation for the very next day. James Carter's office sat on the 20th floor of a sleek glass tower on Peachtree in Buckhead. Jessica stepped into the elevator with her heart in her throat. After what happened, just the sight of elevator doors made her stomach lurch violently and her palms sweat. But she had to do this for herself, for her son, for the future she now had to build alone. When the doors opened on 20, a smiling receptionist with kind eyes led her down a hallway lined with abstract art to a bright corner office with sweeping views of the city and a sliver of green from Piedmont Park in the distance. The AC was ice cold, pure bliss after the scorching street below. Jessica lowered herself carefully into a plush grey chair, clutching her purse like a life raft, palms sweaty, heart racing. The door opened, and he walked in. James Carter was younger than she expected, mid-30s maybe, tall but not imposing. Light blue dress shirt with sleeves rolled once, no tie, dark hair neatly trimmed, but with a slight wave. But it was his eyes that stopped her cold. Tired eyes, kind eyes. Eyes that had clearly seen too much pain themselves. Jessica. He extended a hand, gentle smile. James Carter, it's a pleasure to meet you. She shook it, surprised by the steady warmth of his grip. Have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. You're safe here. Those 3 words, "you're safe here," made her eyes burn with fresh tears she hadn't expected. She sat again, adjusting awkwardly for the belly that made every chair feel too small. James grabbed a yellow legal pad and pen, sat across from her at a respectful distance. Before we start anything, everything you say in this room stays in this room. No judgment. I'm just here to listen. Okay? She nodded, throat tight. So, tell me what happened. From the beginning. And she did. Everything. With long pauses between sentences, with tears that fell silently, with silences heavier than any words. The elevator, the embrace, the intertwined fingers, the word baby that shattered her. The concierge confirming months of visits. The pain of realizing it wasn't a mistake, it was a double life. James listened without interrupting once, without looking away, without the pity she dreaded. When she finally finished, voice hoarse and spent, he was quiet for a long moment, then leaned forward slightly. Jessica, I know exactly how you feel. She looked up, startled, eyes wide. I was cheated on too. The air in the room stilled completely. 4 years ago, my ex-wife, with her co-worker, for almost a year. I found out the worst way possible. I saw them together at Lenox Square Mall on a random Saturday. Jessica held her breath, afraid to move. And I know the rage, the grief, the soul-crushing feeling that somehow you weren't enough, that you should have done something different, that you should have seen it. He paused, voice softening. But it's not true. None of it was your fault. Nothing you did or didn't do justifies what he did. Nothing. For the first time in days, a tear fell that wasn't pure pain. It was relief. Being seen. Being understood by someone who had walked the same fire. James continued, voice steady. That's why I do family law now. Because I've sat right where you're sitting, feeling like my world ended. And I promise you I will fight for you the way I wished someone had fought for me. He picked up his pen again. Let's start simple. Do you want the divorce? Yes, she answered without hesitation. All right. Custody of the baby? Full custody, sole legal and physical. He can have supervised visitation if the court insists, but I want final say on everything. James wrote it down carefully. Shared assets, condo, cars, retirement accounts. Condos in both names, his truck too. Joint savings, some investments. Perfect. We'll inventory everything. I'll need documents, marriage certificate, proof of residence, bank statements last 12 months if you have them, titles, retirement account statements. Jessica nodded, mentally cataloguing even through the fog of exhaustion. Does the affair affect anything legally in Georgia? James sighed, setting his pen down. Georgia is a no-fault state, so adultery itself doesn't change property division much anymore. But it can matter for custody if we show neglect, prioritizing another relationship while his pregnant wife was home alone and high risk. That weighs heavily with a judge, especially when the child is this young. He met her eyes directly, unflinching. But winning on paper isn't the most important thing, Jessica. The most important thing is you walking out of this hole with your peace, your dignity, and your son safe and loved. Tears threatened again, but she blinked them back. You deserve that, and I'll move heaven and earth to make sure you get it. Jessica managed a tiny, shaky smile, the first since that cursed elevator. The consultation lasted almost 2 hours. James explained every step patiently, filing timeline, discovery, temporary orders, mediation possibilities, child support guidelines, asset division formulas, visitation schedules, if any. Never cold, never rushed, just deeply, quietly human. When it ended, Jessica rose carefully, hand on her lower back. James walked her to the door. Day or night, question or panic attack at 3 a.m. Call me. Here's my cell. He handed her a simple white business card with his personal number handwritten on the back. She looked at the card, then at him. Thank you, really. You have no idea. Anytime. She turned to leave, but he called softly. Jessica. She looked back. He hesitated, choosing his words with care. When this is all behind you, you're going to rediscover how strong you are. Stronger than you know right now, and I hope I'm still around when that day comes. Her heart gave a small, unexpected flutter. Nothing overt, nothing inappropriate, just something gentle, a quiet possibility on the horizon. Jessica smiled again, this one a little wider, a little more real. Thank you, James. Anytime. She stepped into the elevator and for the first time in days, took a full, deep breath without her chest caving in on itself. Outside, the November sun still blazed overhead, brutal and unrelenting. The heat was still oppressive, but somehow Jessica felt lighter, as if a tiny crack had opened and let the faintest ray of light in. She walked to the bus stop, sat on the hot concrete bench, rubbed her belly in slow circles. The baby moved, gentle, calm, reassuring. We're gonna be okay, sweet boy, she whispered. Mama promises. And this time, for the first time, she actually believed it. 2 weeks later. Jessica was at home sorting the mountain of documents James had requested when her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. Hello? Jessica, it's James. Sorry to call after hours, but I have news. Her pulse jumped hard. What kind of news? Brandon contacted the firm today. He wants to talk, wants to try an out-of-court settlement, says he doesn't want to drag this through the mud. She sank onto the couch, hand on her belly. What does that mean exactly? It means he's scared. Knows if we go to trial he'll lose a lot more than money, so he wants to negotiate, make it quick and quiet. Do you think I should even talk to him? James paused, considering. Depends what he offers, but I'll be right beside you the whole time. He won't manipulate you, not on my watch. You say the word and we walk away. She exhaled shakily. Okay, let's do it. Great. I'll set it for next week. And Jessica? Yeah? You're doing amazing. Seriously. It may not feel like it every minute, but you are. She smiled despite everything. Thank you. When she hung up, she looked out the window at the Atlanta skyline. Night was falling. Lights winked on one by one across the city, tiny promises of new beginnings scattered like stars. And for the first time since that elevator, Jessica felt something she thought was gone forever. Hope. 3 days later, James called again, voice calm but triumphant. Jessica, It's done. Brandon caved. Accepted every single term. Everything? Everything. You get full custody. He'll pay above-guideline child support. And he's signing over his entire share of the condo. No buyout, no fight. She sat in stunned silence, hand over her mouth. Why would he do that? Just give up? Because I laid out exactly what would happen in court. Showed the concierge affidavit. Showed screenshots of text messages the other woman sent a friend bragging about the length of the affair and how she thought he was leaving you after the baby. He realized he had no shot at looking like anything but the villain. Jessica let out a small, incredulous laugh that surprised even her. So it's really over. It's really over. Just need signatures and the judge's stamp. I'll file Monday. Tears came then, but this time from pure, overwhelming relief. Thank you, James. Thank you for everything. I wouldn't have made it through this without you. I'm honored you trusted me, truly. Comfortable silence stretched on the line. Then James, softer. Jessica, I know it's soon. I know you just climbed out of hell. But when you're ready, when it feels right, when you've healed, I'd really like to get to know you. Outside the office. No files, no paperwork. Just coffee or dinner or whatever feels okay. Her heart skipped, but not from fear. She hadn't expected it. But it didn't scare her. Actually, it felt nice, warm, possible. I'd like that too, she answered gently. But you're right. It's soon. I need to find myself again first. Heal. Be whole for my son. I know. And I'll wait. As long as it takes. Promise? Promise. When she hung up, Jessica stared at her phone with a goofy little smile she hadn't worn in months. The baby kicked hard, like he approved of the new direction. Easy there, little man, she laughed, rubbing the spot. We'll meet him in a few months. Be patient. 2 months later. Jessica sat in the hospital room cradling a tiny, red-faced, perfect baby boy who had arrived screaming into the world at 3:17 a.m. after 18 hours of labor. Hi, sweet boy, she whispered, tears of pure joy streaming down her cheeks as she counted 10 perfect fingers and 10 perfect toes. I waited so long for you. You're finally here. Sarah stood beside the bed, squeezing her hand so hard it hurt, crying harder than Jessica. He's perfect, Jess. Absolutely perfect. Look at that hair. Yeah, she breathed, staring at her son in complete awe. He is. Jessica glanced at the door. Brandon had texted multiple times asking to see his son. She'd said no, maybe one day, maybe never. But that was her choice now, and that was okay, because everything she needed was right here in this room. Her son, her best friend, and herself, stronger, wiser, reborn. 3 months later. Jessica sat at a little outdoor cafe on the Beltline, her son dozing peacefully in the stroller beside her, while runners jogged past and dog walkers waved, the breeze off the trees carrying the scent of spring. Across the table, James stirred sugar into his iced coffee, grinning at the sleeping baby. He's gotten so big, and that smile, he's gonna break hearts. Thank you, Jessica smiled, warmer and freer than she'd felt in years. And stubborn, just like his mama. They laughed together, easy and light. It was their third date. First had been a quick lunch downtown. Second, a slow walk in Piedmont Park pushing the stroller. Now this lazy Saturday coffee with sunshine and possibility in the air. Nothing rushed, nothing forced. Just happening naturally. How are you feeling? James asked, voice soft with genuine care. Better. So much better. Some days the anger still flares up out of nowhere, like a surprise attack. But I guess I'm good. Really good, happy. I'm so glad. He reached across the table and took her hand. Gentle, asking permission with his eyes first. You're incredible, Jessica. I hope you know that by now. She felt her cheeks warm, but she didn't